It's also very Canadian in theme. You know, totally, like throughout the whole album, like the fact that it's Allied forces, you know, it's like we're trying to come together here, folks. We're trying to peace. We're trying to do this together. You know, like that's Canadian. Obviously, fight the good fight is Canadian.
Kind of got this good-natured aspect about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's do this together, guys. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Brent.
Are you ready?
It's been a while. Since we used.
I feel like it's been a long time, actually.
I know. See, I'm a purpose-driven man. You know, if it serves no purpose, then you know why are we gonna do it? You know, so you got to bring it back every once in a while. I love that.
You are nothing but purposeful. I'll say that to you.
Oh, thanks. I try. About as purposeful as Allied forces.
Allied forces. The best I could do, cassette-wise, is Progressions of Power, the one that came out before Allied forces.
You gotta talk to me. I want to start with you on this one. You got to talk to me about Triumph, and you know, because I feel like, you know, you mentioned before, you know, when we talked, you know, privately about having like Rik Emmett posters on your wall, and you know, sounds like you were quite into Triumph as a youngin'.
I wasn't. That was a big deal to me. So Blair Packham introduced me. Blair Packham from the Jitters. I don't know if you're familiar with that band, 80s band. But Blair Packham, super great guy, said, you know who'd like to be on the show probably is Rik Emmett from Triumph. And I was like, no way. You know, that didn't occur to me because I thought that was completely off limits at that time.
On your podcast, if you don't know Brennan's podcast, that you can find on the same YouTube channel. But
yeah, No Sleep Till Sudbury. And so he said, yeah, here's his contact information. So just reach out to him and I'll tell him, you know, to expect to hear from you. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. So I reach out to Rik, and sure enough, bang, like within an hour, he responds. And he said, give me a call. So I call him. And he said, how do you know, give me the rundown. Like, it's just all business, right? He's like, so what's the deal with this thing? And I explained it to him. And he says, okay, how do you do it? And I said, I usually do it via Skype. So he says, he's like, come on, man, I don't use Skype. I don't know how it works. I'm not a techie. I'm not a technology guy. So I'm like, okay. Do you want to do it over the phone? He's like, it'll sound like shit. And I said, I don't know, you know, I don't know what to do. He goes, why don't you just come to my house? And I was like, what? And so I was that kid who I had a Rik Emmett poster on my bedroom wall. And so I said, yeah, just come to my house. And he is this business-like, right? Just come over, we'll do the interview, and that'll be it. And so I show up, and I'm like beside myself, right? Like ringing the doorbell at Rik Emmett's house. And he's like this so totally chill guy. His dog comes up, and I'm petting the dog. He's like, yeah, this is my wife, Jeanette. You know, were you just back to the doorbell? Were you so nervous that like you accidentally rang it twice and then you thought that was it? That was the end, or like no?
No, okay, all right. I wasn't sure. Sometimes like it happen where like you hit it once, but then like you accidentally hit it a second time, and you're like, oh, I blew it.
And I just ran away and get into my car and then like peel out of the driveway.
Gone.
No, he made it so easy. He was just like the nicest guy. He's funny. He's super charming. And he was very, very helpful. He was prepared. And he was such a great guest. I said, you know, if you're interested, I'd love to do the Christmas show with you. And he's like, yeah, okay. Like, what do you want to do? And so we put this thing together. We both worked on it. And he would send me emails saying, okay, like I've got an idea. And it was like, you know, 8 paragraphs of stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, like you're the most prepared guest ever. And so we just built on that. And I kept doing it at his house. I would drive over there. And I'd been there like 3 or 4 times. And the last time I was there was to talk about his new book. And he said, like, don't bring anything over. We'll just use all my gear. Just bring like your recording device. And so I said, okay. So he's got all the stuff. And he's like, okay, so what do you want to use for mics, Jensen? And I said, I don't know. What do you have? And he goes, oh, let's have a look. So we go into this room and there's all these microphones, right? And there's old ones and new ones and big ones and all kinds. And I said, like I said, an older one. I said, what's this? It's like an old SM57. It's a Shure microphone. And he goes, oh, that's cool. And had this big piece of tape around it. And he goes, we use that during the Allied Forces period. And I'm like, that's perfect because, and I looked at, there was a gold record of the Allied Forces on the wall. Yeah. And I said, I'm using this one. And he's like, okay. And so that was the one that I used to record the most recent episode of Rik Emmett on the show. I used that microphone. I have a picture of it. I think I sent it to you.
Yeah, we'll put it up. That was that's crazy. You spend like, so when did you start? Like, at what age were you listening to Triumph?
Oh, geez, like 9, 10.
Wow.
My Progressions of Power is the first record that I heard by Triumph.
Okay, so you're a kid, and you're listening to Rik Emmett just absolutely rip on this guitar, and next thing you know, some, what would that have been, 30 years later, you happen to be in his house recording an episode of your podcast, chatting with him, shooting it, and man, like that's like a dream. But
cool, because like he was so great on the show, but then we would do 2 shows because we would always go long, and I'm like, that's fine, I'll do like a part 1 and part 2 because it's Rik Emmett, right? So he said, okay, well, let's do that, and then what we'll do is we'll break for lunch, and we can just eat in the kitchen. So the last time,
Rik Emmett is human. Yeah.
No, it's and so much so, right? He's just like, hey, totally laid back. So the second last time I was there, he said, what do you want for lunch? And I said, like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And he goes, do you like Subway? And I said, yeah. And he said, okay, I'll go and pick you up a sub. What do you want? And I'm like, I'm giving Rik Emmett my sub order. This is so weird, right? And he comes back and we eat the subs in his kitchen. We're talking, and he has the best stories, like the best stories. And I told you that story about the cube that he told me, just like unbelievable. We'll save that for later. Good guy.
That's cool. That's great, man.
And a damn good guitar player.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, this was the first time I ever really dove into Triumph. So, I think, Lay It on the Line. Well, I know Lay It on the Line. What is it? Magic Power. Once I heard it, I was like, okay, yeah, I know the song.
Fight the Good Fight.
I didn't know that one. No, I didn't really know anything else off of this album.
Yeah. This is a good entry point for people, I find. If you're going to get into Triumph, this is a good record. Just a Game is also very good. But this is Emmett's favorite Triumph record.
Oh yeah,
he's the most proud of this one. Yeah,
it's well. Let's talk about it. I did check out the Game a little bit. I don't think I got through the full album, but there were some good tunes right off the hop that were a lot of fun to listen to, moving on, obviously. Kick It Off is a really cool kickoff tune to that album. But man, Allied Forces, again, like, these are albums I totally wish I would have discovered when I was younger and influential, This was like, and there was also this certain, like, and I'm sure it was felt too at that time when they came out, like, these guys are Canadian. Like, and I know you can feel that way with Rush, like Rush is really cool, a little bit bigger, but like, I feel like at the time if you heard Triumph, like, blending in with Van Halen, blending in with Judas Priest, or like the big bands from around the world, Triumph is like right up there with them. And again, not saying Rush isn't, but like in that genre, in that style, man, you guys just be like,
1993 played the US Festival alongside Scorpions, Judas Priest, Ozzy Osbourne, Motley Crue,
Van Halen. Yeah,
Van Halen. So I mean, they were there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, was that Wozniak?
He was a Triumph fan.
He was. Yeah,
he made that happen. Yeah, he put them on the bill.
Yeah, so I couldn't help but like be potentially influenced like that way as well. That like, oh, like, this is so cool that these guys are Canadian. Like, this is hitting me a little bit differently, I think, than listening to, obviously, if they were another American band or another European band. So yeah, so it hit me differently, and I just thoroughly enjoyed listening to this album
I'm glad.
knowing that. I mean, and not only just because they're Canadian, but there's some really great songs on this album.
There are, yeah. It's a classic, and it stands there with, it's right up there with some great late 70s rock. You think like "Fool for Your Love" right off the top. Makes me think of Foghat.
Oh, yeah.
It's strong stuff, man. It's great material.
Yeah, I think it's a bit early to get into sequencing, but I do think that there's some sequencing things. I know Rik Emmett's a big tune stack guy, so I don't want to
expression. Yeah.
Right. See, I don't want to offend him by saying this, but I feel like I would switch a few things around, in my infinite wisdom as an album sequencer.
Okay.
Really, I might change a few things. I don't know if "Fool for Your Love" is a kickoff tune. That's all I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So as we go through, I want you to tell me what you think the kickoff tune would be. I actually think "Fool for Your Love" is a pretty good one for this record.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think it had to, right? Because then that means Gil Moore was singing the first song.
Yeah. Well,
maybe.
We're not going to get into the politics of Triumph tonight, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I'm not doing that.
You can tell. All right. I'll cut it.
No.
Yeah. So
there was some tension.
There's some tension. Well, it's pretty obvious. I watched their documentary, and
it's common knowledge.
It's all out there. But we don't have to get the politics of it. But what was his band? Right? He started the band when he was younger, way back, and it's
that's a point of contention for some people, not for Rik. He said, and I had this conversation with him in his house. He said, I was never the leader of the band. And I said, I thought you were. And he said, I wasn't. And I said, people think you were because you were the front man. And he said, I was the front man, but I wasn't the leader. It was always Gil's band. And he was hired after. So it was Gil and Mike who were together, and they recruited Rik as a singer and a guitar player. And in my mind, Rik was the band. And I will say to anyone that when he left, Triumph was over. And you saw what happened with, no disrespect to Phil X, who came in and filled in after Emmett left. But Triumph was done. Triumph is nothing without Rik Emmett. And I said that to Rik, and he just kind of, he doesn't like that stuff, right? He's not egotistical at all. But that's the unfortunate. I mean, that's the fact of the matter. And I don't know anybody who would disagree with me.
Interesting. Yeah, I know he felt bad about leaving as well. There wasn't.
He certainly did.
Yeah. I don't know, but we shouldn't say he felt it wasn't a great move, but he felt it was the right move, but he also felt bad about doing it. Yeah.
He really did. He's a sentimental guy, like highly sentimental. And so it wasn't just a snap decision. It wasn't like they had an argument and he said, I'm too good for this band and I'm leaving. It was a long time coming. Yeah.
It's still interesting how Triumph started, though, because they kind of built, and we're going to start the song. We're going to start going through the songs. But I was just saying, found it so crazy how they kind of just started. It feels like playing higbe schools, and then next thing you know, they were playing Madison Square Garden. Like they just kind of fought for their, to be like to go and play. Well, I couldn't even say fought, but just really pushed their way in.
They were very aggressive. They pushed hard. They were playing Massey Hall, and Massey Hall said, we can't have your pyro in here because they had these huge flamethrowers that shot flames up. Right. And Massey Hall was like a tinderbox, right? Yeah. He said, we'll burn the place down. You can't do that. And he said, okay, well then just you talk to the promoter, we'll put us up at Maple Leaf Gardens. And they're like, you're not big enough to play Maple Leaf Gardens. There's no way. And he said, yes, we are. And there was this huge fight. And so they said, we will sell out Maple Leaf Gardens if you book us there. Otherwise, we're going to use the pyro in Massey Hall. And they were just really, kind of forceful, right? And so they eventually did get booked at Maple Leaf Gardens. And I think they did sell it out, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the story of their career. They just pushed and pushed and pushed and made it happen for themselves.
It's a great story for bands. It's a great story for bands to realize what you got to do. Even Rush, there's a great story for bands to understand what you got to do, and kind of, you know, to try and get your foot in and jam it in, and then get your knee in, and then your arm. Like, you just keep getting these pieces in there.
Along with that, you've got to have talent. That's the thing.
100%. Completely.
You've got to be able to back it up. And
100%.
Triumph could, obviously.
Yeah.
Magic Power, sir.
I mean, it's great. It's a great song, man. It is a great song. The way it starts, the build, everything, the vocals, like everything about the song. It's totally commercial, but it's completely incredible. Like, it's just a great song.
It's funny that you say that about it being commercial, because they always thought that it was too poppy, and it wasn't Rick that told the story, somebody else did. But apparently they would play it and they would listen back to it and go, it's too sugary, like it's too poppy. And so they went in one day and they said, okay, let's just really like put some grit in this and jam it out and be a little bit more aggressive and raw. And they did. And all three of them at the end of it nodded and said, yeah, that's the take. We got it. And that's the take that you hear on the record. I think they played it like 5 times. I don't remember which take it was, but I think it was the last one. And they said, yeah, this is it. We got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a tune.
As a matter of fact, I think before that, when they were struggling through the poppiness of it, one of them said, how would the Who record this song? And the reason why I say that is because I'm listening to the song now in my head, and there's a lot of Who-isms in there. If you listen, you know,
totally.
If you listen closely, in the background, there's like keys, right? And you can hear almost like Bob O'Reilly-ish kind of stuff going on in the background. So there was a huge Who influence.
Rick said that too. He said that there's like, if you know, this exists because of the Who, essentially. Like, not for word, but he mentioned that, yeah, the Who had a big part in this kind of, in the instrumentation and the sounds that are in this song. He said there's like the Casio keyboard or whatever that that they've got going on in there, and directly referenced the Who. So look at you.
No, I'd heard that story from somebody else. Rick didn't tell me. I'd heard that story a long time ago about how they recorded that and they were struggling with it. Yeah. But the other thing too is that they, with Progressions of Power, the album before this one, on the cassette, the material wasn't as good because they forced it, and I think there was a timeline issue or something like that. But with Allied Forces, they were able to record it at Metalworks, which they owned. Gilmour owns Metalworks, so they could take their time and they could, you know, really do it the way that they wanted to do it. Yeah,
I spent a lot of time in there. Rick said that he like loved being in there. He's like, you'd just be in there, you'd have the hockey game on, and you'd just be doing overdubs, and Mike produced it, and it was just like, that's what they were doing.
It's a big man cave.
Yeah. Like,
with a really great stereo.
Totally, man. Like, it just like so cool it must be so cool just to find yourself. Think that's where you are. That's what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
You know? Yeah. Not that we're getting paid to do this show, but sometimes I'm like, this is friggin' cool that you and I just get to stand here and talk music. You know, nobody's paying us for it, but even this is just cool. So imagine making an album like, well, I guess any of your albums, but you know, especially one like this with songs like Magic Power and you know, Allied Forces and Ordinary Man. So it's man, the life. Really cool story too. I guess like behind this, you know, you mentioned that Rick had mentioned that he got like a transistor radio from his mom, him and his brothers or his siblings, and they would listen, like he would listen under to the song or the radio under his pillow, and he's like, that was my key to the outside world. And then he's like, I kind of turned into that. Like I was playing in San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York City, and you know, and my music's on the radio, and it was always sort of hard to believe that, you know, thinking back to listening to that like to the radio, and now people are listening to me, is like there's also this sort of like pressure added as well that people are actually listening to you.
I don't know if they ever fully recognized that pressure. I think they were very self-assured, and they were very confident in what they could do. They didn't really have a problem with that. Rik told me a really great, like, heartwarming story, actually, about when they did play Maple Leaf Gardens for the first time, because he used to go there as a kid, and he was a massive hockey fan, and he used to sit in the same seat every time, because I think his uncle or somebody had like season tickets, and so he would sit in the same spot every time, right? And he would just be watching the game and just be like amazed at like the fact that he was in this huge building, because he was just a kid. And the first time they played Maple Leaf Gardens, they headlined, and his name was on the marquee, you know? And so he was on the stage, and when he got on, it was breathtaking for him, and he looked at that spot where he used to sit as a little kid. He was very proud of himself, you know? That's really cool.
Awesome. Yeah. You know, he also built like a wireless transmitter or wireless receiver or something for his guitar so he could run around. I think I believe that. He built it himself. Crazy.
He's a super intelligent guy. Yeah. Very sophisticated thinker, like very intellectually sophisticated. He's not a rock guy, you know. He's super smart.
Yeah.
He didn't I tell you that story about the cube?
You might have. I can't remember it right now.
I'll just like briefly go through it. So during one of these times when we were having lunch in his kitchen, I used to look forward to the stories he used to tell me. And he said, when we were recording for Sony, I used to, I was fascinated with technology. And so I would kind of root around at Sony and look at the stuff they were doing in the 80s, right? And so he said he found this thing that was a cube. And he said, do you know that before CDs came to be, there was supposed to be a cube that Sony was working on, this prototype that would have, it was like kind of just a standard size cube, and it had the 6 sides, but all the 6 sides were covered with music. So there was a cube player that the door would open. You'd put the cube in, it would close, and then the cube would just play the music. So it was like this innovation that Sony was working on. And I said, what happened to the cube? And this is after cassettes and before CDs. So in the mid 80s. And I said, what happened to it? And he said, they shelved it because they figured they were giving away too much money and people wouldn't pay the right price point for it. Because so much music could fit on this cube, they were giving away too much. And they wouldn't realize the return financially. So they scrapped it. And I said, so what you're saying then is before the CD came to be, I could have had a collection of cubes on my wall instead of CDs. And he said, that's exactly what you would have had. Wow. And it was actually very close to coming into being, these cubes. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
But no one knows this stuff.
No.
You know what I mean? And I said, so then, like he said the CDs were being worked on kind of at the same time, but the same problem existed, is that the CD was like a little mini record. Remember the laser discs? I don't know if you know about this. They had these things called laser discs, and it was like a vinyl record. It was huge, but it didn't last very long because it was just very impractical. So they made a smaller version, and that was a compact disc, but the problem still existed that they had 2 sides to fill. And there was compression. What they decided to do to avoid this problem with the cube is put music only on one side. That would be a full album. And on the other side, they would just put writing. So problem solved. And that's how the CD came to be.
Wild.
Yeah.
That's insane.
That. Interesting, yeah.
Infinite wisdom, man. You listen to that guy. I love listening to him talk. I love him on your podcast. If you don't know him, go listen to those episodes, because it's great to. It's so easy, what did you call him on the podcast? Uncle Rik or something like that. Yeah. It just feels like that. Sit down, he talks, and you kind of just get lost. You're like, shut up, Brent. Rik's talking. I know.
That's it. Like, I'm happy just to sit back because he's got great stories and great insights.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. I never tell you to shut up. So I just interrupt you. Cool. It's great. It's great stuff.
So
What comes after Magic Power?
Air Raid.
Okay. See, I wasn't sure if Air Raid was like actually a song on the vinyl or cassette, or if it was the beginning of Allied Forces.
It's like a kind of a prelude, right? It's just I think it's only a minute long, and it's like a heartbeat sound, and it's a good build up to Allied Forces, but it is technically called Air Raid.
Okay. See, I wasn't sure. Like, I just thought maybe, because obviously I streamed the albums, I thought maybe they just separated it, and it was Allied Forces was technically number 3. So not that Air Raid's a song, but okay. I just wanted to clear that up. Air Raid, cool, whatever. It's a prelude to Allied Forces, which is just gangbusters.
Like punishing, right?
Punishing.
And this is, you talk about Canadian bands, and Rush was very... Rush had some great tunes that were, the drums were pulverizing and that stuff. But like this, Allied Forces it's a heavy metal song in essence almost. And I'm the guy who usually says it's not metal, But this is pretty close to being a full heavy metal song. It's punishing, and it's unrelenting. It just there's these waves of like sonic punishment that just keep coming, like blah, blah, and it's like, geez, this is Triumph. It's crazy, because you just heard Magic Power a little while ago.
Yes, and that's what I do love about the album, what it does. But this would have been number 1 for me. It would have been Air Raid into Allied Forces into like Magic Power or Fool for Your Love to kick the record off.
I wonder if they did that intentionally, not to kind of almost scare people away or set the wrong tone.
I would.
Do you know what I mean?
I would believe that for sure. We're not saying that's what it is, but I get that. I understand that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true, and I would ask Rik that one day. But I could see why they would not put this, as the lead off track for that reason.
Well, I think it could have been. That's just. My opinion, man.
But see, then there's other songs like after this, like Hot Time, right? That is again back to Foghat kind of thing, right?
Yeah, totally.
And it's almost like that kind of guitar intro is like very Chuck Berry-ish.
Totally, yeah, swinging. Like like he is such a killer guitar player, man. Like these solos, even the tones throughout this whole album is just perfect. The solos are perfect. Like they really dialed in every song on this album, and Hot Time is so much fun. The
influence that Rik brought into the band, this is a great example. Like you hear a lot of kind of acoustic classical passages too on this album and other albums, but just the wide array of guitar influence that he brought with him is really fascinating.
He seems like a pretty clean guy. When I think about, when you look at him and you don't think he's kind of unassuming, right? He kind of almost has like a preppy look, obviously, until they got the spandex and the whatever. But before, right, he had he's always had the long hair, but it was like that, and like what was like a collar and the sweater, and just very like a preppy type of look. He
did. He was like a very fresh-faced, kind of, good-looking. He didn't look like a dirty rocker. He always looked like this kind of,
Yeah.
He I don't know if I'd say preppy, but like he looked like he was, like girls would bring him home to meet mom kind of thing.
Right. Like he didn't go out to party, and I don't know this for sure, but he looked like he went home to play the guitar, and I say that knowing full well that's what Eddie Van Halen did as well. But I think the difference is that Eddie would smoke packs of cigarettes while playing the guitar, so he looked like he partied and did all of that kind of stuff. Whereas Rik just kind of looks like the guy who was just like, I'm just gonna go and play the guitar for 7 or 8 hours tonight, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for the for the finals.
That's how you get good.
Yeah.
Fight the Good Fight.
Great tune.
Like inspirational.
Super inspirational, man. This has saved people's lives. Like it's insane.
I agree. This song makes my skin vibrate. Like, it truly does. And again, you know, it's a privilege for me to be able to have private conversations with Rik about this stuff, but this is truly magical music for me. You know?
Yeah,
this is special stuff.
You know, it's also I will say it's also very Canadian in theme. You know, totally, like throughout the whole album, like the fact that it's Allied forces, you know, it's like, we're trying to come together here, folks. We're trying to peace. We're trying to do this together. You know, like, that's Canadian. Obviously, fight the good fight is Canadian.
Kind of got this good-natured aspect about it. Right? Like, let's do this together, guys. You know what I mean?
You know, and it's great because, like, they touched a ton of lives, and you know, people, yeah, they listen, especially this song, for, you know, inspiration during really tough times, and like, that's exactly what you need, obviously, and like, I think it just is like a genre that probably needed it at that time as well.
Rik has told me staggering stories about this song and its effect on people, and some of the letters he used to get from people who, you know, would say that they wanted to kill themselves, and they heard this song and they changed their minds. Wow, right?
Well, like, you can't ask for anything, you know, more as a band. Everybody, you know, wait for your music to, you know, to do for people emotionally and mentally.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. And what a feeling that must be to have achieved that in your life. You know?
Ordinary Man.
A lot of like definitely a Styx, like late 70s flavor about this song, like Kansas kind of, you know.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I feel that. I love this song. This might be my favorite song on the album.
I could see that, actually.
So
and that's
great.
Saying a lot. I mean, that's saying quite a lot, because Magic Power and Fight the Good Fight are amazing, as is Allied Forces. But this song is a really nice breakdown, right? It's got that weird, like, that thrashy part comes into that's like completely unexpected.
Yes.
Isn't that odd?
I love it. I love it.
Way.
Yeah, no, I love every piece of this song, because it starts out, even like the Queen, like, vocals to start off by singing "Ordinary Man," and you kind of almost expect it to go or something, but then
it's like Styx. So it's
but then it does it. It's got this great, just like, musical interlude to start, and it's nice and slow, and then eventually it takes like 2.5 minutes before it gets going, and like, it's just like, again, like, Ordinary Man, you know, like, it's very, very Canadian.
And that's all Rik. Yeah.
Man, what a writer. Great writer.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible knowledge of the guitar, just in terms of, you know, he plays and tries to show you, like, that's a fifth diminished, and I'm like, what?
That's right. Yeah, he knows the theory, eh?
Like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. He used to teach courses at college about, you know, music theory and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
Well, that's what I love too about this. I mean, like, there's a band out of Toronto called Mono Whales, who I'm pretty sure Rik Emmett was like their teacher as well, or at least had played a part in teaching, whether it's theory or writing or something like that. Because I know I've talked about him being an influence on, you know, getting to where they are, but also with Gilmore having Metalworks. Yeah, that's a, you know, it's like, I don't know if it's a college or university, but it's an education center. It's where people go and get, like, schooling for audio engineering and things like that.
Co-op through places like Trebas Institute. I think that, like, Metalworks would be maybe a co-op. You know, they would, you know, you have a certain requirement where you've got to put in a number of hours there on the job, or whatever it is, right? Yeah.
Well, guest of your podcast, recommendation of mine, Evan Denley, went to Metalworks to get some you know, training in the audio production field. So this is cool that they have that side of things as well with them. But, you know, you talk about, you know, Rik's ability to play in theory and things like that, and Petite Etude is
so good,
man. Like, I'm listening to it, I'm like, how do you know, like, where to, how do you know where to, like, to go from here to there, and maybe it's I know that there are, whatever flamenco songs and Spanish songs that probably they are passages of or something like that he's kind of mixed together, but either way, like you listen to that and you're like, you just kind of keep following it. You're like, this is incredible. Love it.
And that's all through that he's a student of guitar history, but across multiple genres. So he'll tell you, things about like the Brill Building in New York City and the great songwriters of the 50s, and he can go back forever and he knows everything. Like what, you've heard him on the show go back and talk about like these people, I've never even heard of them, right? And then he'll pick up the guitar and say, because he came up with this, and it's like, I don't know how you know that.
Retain that information. It's insane.
He knew that stuff at a very young age, and that's where things like Petite Etude came from.
Then he backs that up with the vocals, like where he's just the triple threat. It's insane.
People think Geddy Lee sang high. He said the tag of "Fight the Good Fight." That's pretty fucking high.
I saw somebody commented that would Triumph really be if it wasn't for Rush or something like that? And what's your take on that?
Of course they would be. I they were certainly aware of Rush. I don't think that they, I think they probably had an eye on Rush, but they weren't in Rush's shadow at any point. I didn't feel like. When you think about early Rush and stuff like In the Mood and Lakeside Park is not like that kind of elaborate prog that Rush tends to be known for.
Right.
But Triumph was also doing that stuff, and they did it a little bit longer. Rush was a more involved band in terms of like exploring things like Xanadu, and do you know what I mean? But Triumph is a little bit more rock.
Yeah. No, I was wondering if it...
No disrespect, but they weren't the same kind of band.
No, not at all. That's why I was wondering if maybe it was the success of them being a Canadian band helped Triumph, but I don't think in any way Rush had anything to do with their success. Yeah.
No, not in my opinion.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yes.
Let's see. Say goodbye, I'll be leaving in the morning.
Wow.
Not bad.
I would like to see if that's actually like in pitch with Rik.
There's nothing you can do to make me stay. Huh?
That was slightly under, but that's good. That's high, man.
That's right. That was good. That was tried.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't work out enough to get that second line, but man, what a tune.
So high. I think that was a good job. Like I said on previous shows, I want to do like a segment where it's just you singing.
Yeah, a mashup. I don't sing long enough. It might only be like 30 to 45 seconds, maybe. With like 4 songs.
Like a full song.
No, never. I could never get a full song out. Say Goodbye is such a fantastic song. Like sitting at number 9, the last song on the album, perfect earworm. Perfect. Like I can't stop singing this song. It's awesome.
It's a great composition, and it's testament to that kind of hooky sensibility that Emmett had as a songwriter. And there's a segment in there that is like so trademark Rik Emmett that as soon as you hear it you go, oh yes, right? It's just a great example of how good a songwriter he was and how great the band was.
Yeah, great band, man. Great album, ton of fun. I love this thing. I'm
so glad that you liked it.
Yeah, it's
because this is not like, just really quickly, this is not this tends to be an acquired taste for some people. And people, of your age would probably listen to this and go, it's just okay. Yeah.
Man, I think I've always loved metal, whether it's heavy metal, hard rock. I know this is rock, more hard rock, not heavy metal, but I feel like I've just always been in this, and so I often like, you know, when we're listening to these metal albums, I'm like, yeah, like this is like, I do love this. You know, I love listening to Springsteen and you know, that type of music as well. But this was like, I was just feeling metal and hard rock, you know, it's in me. So this, when I hear a good one, I'm excited about it. And this is a 4.5 for me. This is a 4.5 out of 5. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rate this one.
That's fair.
My
That's
rating
fine.
will be private.
Yeah.
I'm too kind of sentimentally attached to it.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, if Rik ever found out you gave this anything less than a 10 out of 5, then, you know,
the friendship would be over.
you might. Yeah.
I think I you know what, on its merits, I would give this a 5. I would, because and the reason in the explanation is that it's a well-balanced record. It's got strong songs on it, and there's kind of that light and shade support too, right? It did what it kind of set out to do, in my opinion. It served its purpose, like, beyond. It's an excellent record, and so it is a 5.
Yeah.
But I do
Sweet.
have like quite a sentimental kind of bias, so that's why
You
I didn't
do.
want to initially rate it.
Well, I know, and again, this is not a comparison thing, but I'm trying to think of what albums I've rated perfect. Obviously, I know that Queen was.
Who's
I'll have
next?
to go back and was Who's Next perfect? Yeah. I mean,
so.
like, it's just those songs, like some of those albums that, like, when they really make you feel, when they really hit you, that's when I know it's like a perfect album.
We did quite a run. For a little while, we did Born to Run, Moving Pictures.
You're right.
Who's Next? Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. Like
Those were pretty much all 5, weren't they? I feel like.
Oh, it's like, but think about that.
Yeah.
Those are some of the best records in the history of rock and roll.
All time. Yeah.
Really, right?
Yeah.
And then we did Kiss Destroyer.
That it just destroyed that streak. Yeah. No, good. It was fun. That was fun.
It was fun. I like that record. I'm just screwing around.
Where are we moving on to? Following our Canadian friends' triumph.
Okay, so this is going to be a departure, but
Okay.
I want to bring back a theme, because we were onto something and it piqued my curiosity.
Okay.
So we did Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance.
Yeah.
We did Scorpions' Love Drive. And so that kind of got me thinking about two things. It got me thinking about heavy metal and Alex, and it got me thinking about German metal bands and Alex.
Okay.
And so next show, I would like to introduce you to Accept, Balls to the Wall.
Okay.
Yes.
You've mentioned this a few times. You mentioned Accept a few times on the show, so it's about time it made its appearance. Sweet.
I'm very curious to see how you will find this record.
Me too.
Yeah.
Balls to the Wall. They're German as well.
They're very, very much. They're very much German. Yes, they're a very German band. Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. All right.
Yes.
I think I know Balls to the Wall from Guitar Hero. That's how I know that song.
Not off to a good start.
No. I didn't play it very often on Guitar Hero, but so yeah, cool. No, as always, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to get into a new album. So
Awesome.
I wasn't a big fan of the last German band, but you know, I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic
Let's get back on the horse and see what happens.
Oliver. Optimistic Oliver. Anyways, yeah, let's do it.
Is that like negative Nancy, but different?
Yeah, but optimistic. Optimistic Ollie. Optimistic. Okay, time to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week for Accepts. Balls to the Wall. Cheers, Brent. Cheers, Triumph.
Cheers.
Rik, Gil, Mike. Maybe you'll listen. Cheers.
Cheers.
Great album. I'm out. I'm done.